Welcome back, everyone. Michael here with Offshore Citizen. Today we're going to answer a bit of a question from one of our viewers. Actually, a few of our viewers were asking me to make a video on my thoughts around the 4% rule. So in this video, I'm going to explain a little bit about what the 4% rule is, the extent to which it has been stress tested or not, how it might apply to your kind of future planning, investment, if you're going to retire, retirement goals, just financial goals, wealth goals, etc. So let's dive into that right now. Before we do that, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. I really appreciate it. It really helps out with the channel, helps us out. Thank you very much. Make sure you go and check out some of our other videos. We got lots of them out there on trying to produce content on all the topics you might be interested in. And if you'd like help with these topics of international tax planning, international asset protection, forming companies, opening bank accounts, relocating, getting residency permits, citizenships, payment processing, international investing, etc., please reach out to us. You can book a call with me, calendly.com/Michael-Rosmer. There's a link in the description below, or send a message to our websites, offshorecitizen.net or offshorecapitalist.com. Okay, so the 4% rule. What's the 4% rule? Essentially, this is the idea that if you have a nest egg, an investment nest egg, and you're in a position where you only spend 4%, you can basically live on 4% of that money, you'll be good forever, okay? And, you can kind of think about this logically. If we just think, if you had no returns whatsoever, then the principal erosion should allow you about 25 years worth of security, which for most people by the time they retire is pretty long, right? And then on top of that, you probably are going to get an investment rate of return. And in fact, that investment rate of return can be, well above the 4% in a lot of cases. So there is some rationale behind that. Now, if you look into this, this has been pretty thoroughly stress tested over a pretty long period of time in a normal functioning environment, okay? And it's that normal functioning environment part that I want to draw your attention to, okay? So is it likely that if you apply the 4% rule, meaning that you say, okay, great, I'm only going to spend 4% of my principal, and I'm going to have that set aside, investing, etc., and I'm going to basically design my life such that my cost of living is not greater than 4% of the investment savings that I've set aside. Are you good? You're probably good, right? In vast majority of situations, you are good. Are you going to be good in edge cases? Well, so you can sit there and you can point out, you could have high inflation, which could cause that number to be erroneous, right? Wouldn't work. If you're in the situation where you are saying that, right? Saying that, okay, I'm going to have a high inflation environment. Well, the truth is that we went through pretty high inflation around the early 80s, and, the 4% rule held. 4% rule is held for, in depressions, in, ups and downs in the economy, and all kinds of political upheaval, etc. So it should be solid, right? I think that that's quite short-sighted to say that. I think that it's probably safe enough for most people. That's probably the accurate way to say it. On the other hand, I have bills that my wife gave me from Yugoslavia where you had 1,000x inflation in a year. So they went from like $1 trillion to, like a quadrillion in a year kind of thing, like just ridiculous levels of inflation. Maybe it was 100x, but anyway, the whole point is just such absurd inflation as for it not to be relevant. And I think that in these extreme edge cases, all these hard rules go out the window. It's kind of the idea of black swan events, right? And the danger that can come in this kind of extreme tail risk, right? So from that standpoint, I think that what it would say to me is less that it's about the 4% that matters, and more about where your money is allocated that matters if you're thinking long-term like that, right? If you're thinking, okay, this is the money that has to get me through, then it's probably not wise to make very concentrated bets, because a pretty broad range of those bets could get pretty damaged. And so maybe this is a good lesson in diversification. So if you really wanted to be diversified, granted, I've done a video before, diversification is often diversification, and there's lots of problems that might go along with that, so you have to be careful. But that being said, let's take a look. Diversified between countries, diversified between currencies, diversified between asset classes. If you were to kind of diversify between those things, then and have the 4% in there, you're probably pretty safe. Okay, probably pretty safe. There are some like super extreme events, a nuclear war or something, which maybe destroys all of that. And the reality is that you're probably not really so much worried about whether it's going to be 4% at that stage. So, yeah, that would be my basic view, is that it's a fine metric. It's, if you want to go for that, it's sensible, right? It's pretty safe. If you diversify properly, it's extremely safe. I'm not a fan of retirement. I think that retirement's a really poor goal. There's a concept in Japanese that I forget what the name of the word is, but instead of having the concept of retirement, it's reason for getting up in the morning. And I think that's just much more potent, much more real, So I think about it more from that standpoint. I also don't necessarily think about the idea of necessarily having a whole bunch of wealth at the end of your life. I think that if you accumulate a large amount of wealth, the purpose of that is to lever it to advancing your values in the world. And so what's the point in dying with $100 million? Seems kind of wasteful to me. I don't think it's really great to pass on $100 million to kids. And so I think you're much better off to take the money and utilize it as efficiently as possible, deploying it, as opposed to focusing on, extreme accumulation. But obviously, you don't want to have yourself taken care of, and you want your close family taken care of course. And so from that standpoint, the 4% rule is probably a reasonable rule of thumb if you're just trying to quickly price something out. So I hope that helps, gives like a little bit of an idea. I know it's not super sophisticated, but maybe if you have questions, you can put them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer them. And I'd love to hear from you guys. Do you have, what is your system for planning, what your financial targets are, how much money it is that you're looking to accumulate, how much money you're willing to spend on your living, on different portions of your living, etc. So happy to hear from you about all those things. Follow me on Twitter. I'm at Michael Rosmer. Check out our other stuff and give the video a thumbs up if you like it. And if not, please tell me why. And I'm going to look forward to seeing you guys on the next video.